Hello, everyone. This is going to be a completely non-scripted video on how to get audio from different audio apps, in this case, Endless, to Zoom. It's something that is quite complicated on a PC with Windows. It's something that's a little bit more simple on a Mac. If you do have a Mac and you want to know how to do this process, then I have a video specifically for that. So yeah, let's just get into it. We are going to be using something called Voicemeeter Banana, which is free. So we want to download it. Simple download, install. It's going to download on your computer with this orange button here. Then I'm going to go to look at it in the browser. I've downloaded this a number of times now because I've had to do the tutorial twice. Never mind. What we want to do with zip files, if you don't know how to unzip a file, then there's lots of resources that will show you, but essentially we just extract it to where that file is. It's going to open up its own little folder, and there should be an exec file, executable file. So double click on that, and it will ask you if it can make changes. Mine is already installed, so you're probably just gonna be able to just install it there. So yeah, that's the process with that. Then we're gonna get Voicemeeter set up for sending audio around. So once you've got it installed, you can just hit the Windows key, then start typing it, return. And it's going to load up this thing called Voicemeeter Banana, which looks complicated because it is. The thing is with this is you do not have to understand it. You basically just have to do what I say. Do what I say. Copy these settings, and you should be good to go. So yours is not going to look like this when you load up. This is how I've got it set up. So I'm going to reinitialize it and go through step by step what we do to it. But just to let you know, I'm also going to make available the XML settings file, which you can hopefully just load into here, and it will do all the necessary changes that you need. You load setting files in Voicemeeter by going into menu, and then load settings, and then you should have something like this, or you should find something like this on your computer. It's an XML file. Press open, and then it will load the settings. And it's not just the settings in this screen, it's also the settings in, as we'll come to in a second, in system settings, which is this, which looks even more complicated because it is. Anyway, so I'm just going to reinitialize, and we'll just go through what you have to do. If you do load the settings file, the only thing that you'll have to do is probably just change which sound card you have, which will be the ASIO driver for your audio interface. So if you have, this is my audio interface down here, the complete audio. But if you have a Scarlett or a Focusrite or like a RME or something, it's going to be ASIO : then whatever your sound card is. Okay, but let's just do it manually, step by step. So this is all just reinitialize. This is how it will appear for you when you get the program. So we're basically going to disenable these three hardware inputs here. We're going to pull down these faders, these three faders, and we're also going to activate all of these green buttons here. So these are completely not being used at all. Next thing, again, just don't try and understand this. I don't understand this. I'm mainly doing this from a photo of my settings. In the virtual inputs, we're going to just kind of leave it as it is, apart from changing this B1 to B2 so that they're different channels. This all stays the same, but up here we want to select, like I showed you before, in this hardware out section there's this A1, and we can just select the ASIO driver. Has to be the ASIO driver, not Windows whatever or MME. It's ASIO driver. And yeah, mine's a complete, so I'm going to select that, but you select your sound card here. Okay. So that's all fine. Now what we need now is to go in to menu and then system settings. And there's just a few things to change in here. So we're just going to click these numbers on in2 and in3 until they become dashes. So we want 1 and 2, assuming that those are your inputs. I think if you're plugging your mic into different channels, then you might have to enable those. But right now, we're just going to use that. Then this all stays the same. This all completely stays the same up here to the defaults. Then the only other thing we do is down here. This is like a sort of insert strip, and we're going to enable the one that's called in4 left. Both these blue boxes enable together, so you don't have to click each one. In4 left and then in4 right. And we're going to remember what they're called. I mean, you don't have to remember, but it will make sense in a second. In4 left and in4 right. That just happens to be the way that Voicemeeter labels these channels. And then we're going to come over to, I think, in5 left and in5 right. I believe. Let me just check my photo. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, so now that that's all done, we can close that window. And now we are done with Voicemeeter. Hopefully you'll never have to touch this thing again. The only thing that you have to do each time you do an Endless and Zoom session is to just make sure that Voicemeeter is running. You can minimize it and whatever, but it needs to be running in the background for this to work. So we're on to step 2, and that is by getting into Endless. We are going to go over to audio settings, that little cog in the right, and we're going to select our ASIO drivers, and we are going to select our Voicemeeter insert virtual ASIO. Now there are a number of different options here that maybe sound a bit like that, but what we need is Voicemeeter insert virtual ASIO. And when it first gets selected, I think all of these active output channels are ticked. So you have to go through and you have to just untick all of the channels, apart from this one here, which says in4 left and in4 right. And if we remember from our settings, that's indeed what we selected here, in4 left and in4 right. Okay, so once that is selected, then we can choose a sample rate there. Our audio buffer size is going to be set to whatever our sound card is currently set to in its own control panel app. So for me, I have this Native Instruments audio control panel, and I can select the buffer size here in terms of how, if I'm starting to get lots of glitches, maybe I'll like bump it up to 128 or something like that. But I tend to hit keep it at 64 because for me that's a workable latency. And it will depend a little bit on your sound card. If you don't have a control panel like this for your sound card, then you probably just need to download the drivers for it. It should install into your Windows. Okay, so now that that's all selected, we can come out of here. So step 3 then is somehow getting this into Zoom. I prefer to do this by actually starting a meeting, then joining with...
Recording in progress.
Yeah, joining with that. Then going down here, you can get to the settings by hitting that cog up there on the main Zoom window, but actually in the meeting window itself, you can go into this... what's that called? An arrow next to the mute button and into audio settings. What we have to do is we can leave our speaker the same. So right now my headphones are plugged into my Complete 6 sound card. Then we actually just have to change this microphone to the Voicemeeter output. It feels maybe a bit counterintuitive to put the microphone as the output, but that is what we have to do. And then it's really important to enable the actual high fidelity audio on Zoom. Zoom, as default, is trying to remove everything that's not speech because it's optimized for speech. So we want to counteract that by selecting this option called Original Sound for Musicians. It will mean that you have to use headphones, but if you're doing endless and you're doing looping and you're using it with Zoom, you're going to have to use headphones. It's just kind of non-negotiable. But so select the Original Sound for Musicians, and then we've got high fidelity music mode, echo cancellation, and stereo audio. Just have all those 3 selected. And the other thing that is often forgotten is we actually have to enable it in the meeting itself. So this is kind of our base audio profile settings, if you like. And then within the meeting itself, we have to select on. And now that that is outputting, hopefully, if I go over to Endless, I can make some sounds here, and you see it is being piped into this microphone section. I can just test it if I want to by hitting test, recording some stuff, hitting the button again, and it will play back to me what I just recorded. It sounds good to me. It sounds like very hard to tell any difference in quality, which hopefully is what it's going to sound like for other people as well. Yeah, so that's it. Obviously, the issue with that is you now have either your microphone, which for me would be the Complete audio. So you see, that's my microphone coming in. It's registering my sound. But if I go back to select Voicemeeter output, then it's not going to be taking my mic directly. So a few things I can do. I can either just select the microphone when I want to talk to people, and then select the output when I want endless. Or you can get another app, which I'm not going to do right now, but you can set Ableton or whatever to be monitoring a mic, and then you can set the output of that to what we did in endless before. Or what I actually end up doing, which is probably the simplest thing, is just going into endless and I've got so many windows now. Is just going into the audio in, and obviously it's configured to be receiving your mic, and then just selecting the monitor input, and then make sure that you're just in this audio in with the monitor input. It's going to be doubled now, so it's probably going to sound really weird. Oh. But you're going to... It's picking up your audio when you've got your monitor input. So, yeah, that's probably the most simple way to do it. And then if you know that you're not going to be using endless at all, you can just switch back to your input, which is there. well, it's going to be different for you. Yeah, so you can record a recording of the meeting as well and listen back to it just to check that it's where you want it to, how you want it to sound. But that basically does it. Yeah, it's a little bit of a process, but this is very much a set and forget process. And just a reminder that this is not going to work unless you have Voicemeeter running. So when you start the computer, or when you start a Zoom, or when you start this session, then you're just going to have to make sure Voicemeeter is running. And that is how you get audio into Zoom for soloing over your lovely endless loops. All right, thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.